The thing about dubbing spinners is they need to have good weight and spin well for doing a composite loop. And you know, a big one will spin small stuff, fine dubbing loops as well as any other spinner. But lighter spinners won't spin heavier collections of materials, where that is the reason that we settled on this weight and this design, is to allow you to tie everything from top to bottom, from little tiny flies to big steelhead flies, and still have a solid purchase. It's not a petite little tool. It's just about the right size, right weight, and it won't roll off your table. If they're round, they roll off your table and you can't find them. That's really sad. It's a good tool. It's come a long ways, a lot of years of the same thing. It's basically a copy of the very first tool about the third tool that I made in shop class. That is a good tool. And it won't roll off the table. That's so funny.
It's pretty much indispensable, right? We use them for just about
everything. I mean, my fly tying is based, all of my tying is based in loops. Everything I do is loops. I very rarely palm or a hackle, although I do, but for the most part, all my tying is comprised of some type of dubbing loop. So with that said, the dubbing loop and the scissors and my bodkin are about the most hard used tools. Well, that's not true. I ever use everything on my toothbrushes, but the dubbing, without a quality dubbing spinner, I wouldn't be able to accomplish any of these composite loops that I do. Most dubbing spinners don't have the weight and or will spin as fast, and the weight is key to that. So it's a mandatory piece of equipment on my table.
Why do you use dubbing loops so much?
Well, dubbing loops it allows me to create these unique effects and unique shoulders. It allows me to, instead of having to be, confined to wrapping on a hackle, putting on a dubbing ball, wrapping on a hackle, and then turning on the proper ostrich tip, I can literally take any material on my table and stick it in a dubbing loop. And that to me keeps fly tying fun, and that's what you want it to be, is fun. As long as you can keep it fun, you can keep tying, keep evolving. And as long as I can keep evolving, it stays fun. And the dubbing loop allows me to continually evolve what I put in it and what it looks like when I'm done. And there's not a lot of methods that have that type of versatility. And the dubbing loop, the composite loops specifically, have a lot of versatility.
About having one hook versus two. My old spinner has two hooks for some reason, and it's pretty annoying.
I think the idea behind the two hooks was to hold the loop open, but we don't need to hold the loop open. We need to hold the loop closed. So, and that's just material handling skills. You want it closed at the bottom, and you can open and close it with your fingers. And one hook, two hooks are pretty flimsy, and one hook's nice and sturdy. It's a good sturdy tool. I mean, it's definitely, fly tying's not going to break it. And that's what I want. I want something real stout that's more like a handle as well. Where the little spring spinners, they're a lot more petite tool, and this is fairly substantial, which I think is nice for, I don't have small hands, I have pretty average hands, but it fits in my hands well. I can still have the hook exposed. I can cover the hook up, which I usually do when I'm wrapping, and then it's easily exposed for sticking it in the dubbing loop. It's nice and big, and once again, lots of spin weight. It's really, really easy to spin down, a fair amount of material nice and tight.
So the heavier it is, the more stuff you can put in the loop?
Generally. I mean, you could make the tool so heavy that it would be cumbersome and not, kind of hard to use. It'd weigh a lot. It'd make a lot of noise when it hits the table, even though this does too, but not that that's any big deal. But it's, this is the proper weight and shape for, being able to use constantly and be able to use from big to small loops. It's starting to dry out really nice.
it's also easier to get in and out of a loop than a double setup.
Oh yeah, for sure. I haven't used a double in so long that I'd forgotten that, you know, because the very first spinner I got had 2 hooks on it, and I think I broke them pretty, you know, it lasted quite a long while, but I ended up breaking both hooks. And so I drilled a hole all the way through it and put a piece of stainless wire that basically looked exactly like that. And I captured it in the bottom with a toothpick, as a matter of fact. And I eventually bent an end on it and captured it in there. But that was the beginning of this. And it was all about weight. And this one's actually a little heavier than that one. This spins way better than that tool did. But it started out with 2 hooks and ended up with 1. And it worked with 1 for a very long time.